Good afternoon, everyone. I'll call to order the Tuesday, August 18th meeting of the Chattanooga City Council and recognize Councilwoman Burrs to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance and invocation.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I yield my time, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Welcome again, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We'd like to, at the outset of our meetings, give kind of a rundown of how our meetings operate for any who might be with us for the first time. We ask first and foremost that everybody silence or turn off your cell phone so we don't have any distractions to our meeting. Our meeting takes place in two parts. The first part is our agenda session, where council will go through and look at the items that we'll be voting on tonight, as well as next week and 3 weeks or more out, so that we're well prepared. And then we also, during our agenda session, will have special presentations, committee and department reports from time to time. And so we'll do that all. We do have a special presentation that we'll get to in just a minute with Councilwoman Knoll. And then we'll recess as we normally do, and we do need an attorney-client meeting briefly today with our city attorney, and so we'll do that during our recess. When the time comes for that, I'll announce the time that we'll be coming back for our business portion of the meeting, which is where we vote on all the items on our agenda for this evening. And so then at the end of that business or voting portion of our meeting, there is a time for members of the public who are here and would like to address council. And when the time comes for that, we'll just have folks to come up front to the podium, and we'll have some rules that we'll read at that time. But as I mentioned, we do have a special presentation today that Councilwoman Marvine Knoll will be handling for us, and so I'll yield the podium to her.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I might have Chief Knowles and Lieutenant Alan Green come join me.
How you doing?
Fabulous. How are you?
I'm good.
Absolutely. All right. As Chair said, I am Marvine Knoll, City Council Representative for the great District 8. So, Mayor, members of council, and members of the audience, it is my honor today to recognize and congratulate Lieutenant Alan Green as being selected by the International Association of Fire Chiefs as the 2026 Company Officer of the Year. This is a tremendous honor and a reflection of Lieutenant Green's leadership, professionalism, dedication, and commitment to the fire service and to our community. Lieutenant Green, congratulations on this well-deserved recognition. We are proud of you. We appreciate your service, and we thank you for representing our community with excellence. Please join me in congratulating Lieutenant Alan Green. And on behalf of the council and the city of Chattanooga and Mayor Tim Kelly, we give you
A cake.
not really, but you can probably put a cake in.
Okay.
You can make it in the microwave. And then a pen set. Think of us every time you make a stroke, okay? And then we have, if you all will allow me a second to read the certificate of special recognition presented to Lieutenant Alan Green in recognition of outstanding leadership, dedication, and unwavering commitment to the citizens of Chattanooga and Chattanooga Fire Department. Recognizing Chattanooga Fire Department Lieutenant Alan Green, AFC 2026 Company Officer of the Year, presented by Councilwoman Marvine Knoll. Again, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, indeed.
All right, Chief Knowles.
Yes. Thank you, Councilwoman, Council. I just wanted to say a few words about Lieutenant Green and the award ceremony. So the IAFC is the International Association of Fire Chiefs, and so it's not only nationally but worldwide. Conference where fire chiefs and chief officers and firefighters from all over the globe come in and learn and network. And so, you know, my part, I went up there. I was fortunate enough, myself, along with other chiefs within the department, to be able to attend this year and sit down with chiefs from all over the world and find out what's going on within their fire departments, good, bad, and how they're doing things. And so, but that wasn't the highlight of this conference for me. The highlight of this conference was being able to attend an award ceremony for one of our own, Lieutenant Green. And when I got the email from the committee announcing that he had won this award, you know, I said there wasn't anybody else, you know, that when they read it off that deserved it more than Alan. And so I want to read just a portion of what they read during the award ceremony in Kansas City this past week. Some leaders inspire through their words, others inspire through their actions. Lieutenant Alan Green of the Chattanooga Fire Department does both. Green built his career that extends far beyond emergency response. As a company officer, educator, author, mentor, nonprofit founder, he demonstrates that today's fire service leaders don't just respond to emergencies, they work tirelessly to prevent them while creating lasting change in their communities. As a fire and life safety educator, Green has remained what community risk reduction can look like. Using data to identify neighborhoods at greatest risk, he develops education programs that reach the communities where they can have the greatest impact. His belief is simple: prevention begins with education. Determined to make fire safety education more engaging for children, Green authored his own children's book, Mom, Dad, What Should I Do? The book intentionally features children who reflect the diversity of Chattanooga, allowing young readers to see themselves in the story, and even as future firefighters. Proceeds from the book support Green's nonprofit and literacy initiatives, and departments across the country have already begun incorporating it into their own fire prevention efforts. Green's commitment to young people extend beyond the classroom. He founded PPCH Incorporated, Pain, Perseverance, Character, and Hope, to mentor at-risk youth and provide the encouragement, guidance, and stability that changed his own life. Through PPCH and years of volunteer work with organizations like Bethel Bible Village and Barger Academy of Fine Arts, Green has become a trusted mentor to countless young people throughout Chattanooga. His dedication earned him the Ralph Cawthorn Civil Service Firefighter of the Year Award, recognizing not only his service as a firefighter, but also his lasting investment in the community's youth. Lieutenant Alan Green exemplifies what modern fire service leadership can be: courageous, compassionate, innovative, and deeply committed to serving others. By transforming his own life experiences into opportunities for education, mentorship, and prevention, he has expanded the role of company officer beyond emergency response and into lasting community impact.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Green.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, y'all know y'all should have gave me a time limit. Where's the timer?
15 seconds.
2 minutes. No, I'm not gonna be long-winded, so thank you, as
You are
always.
so
Appreciate that.
welcome. We appreciate you.
Thank you all, and I would like to first, let me thank God, because I know where I've been in my life, where I am now, none of that is possible. You know, I don't do this career or this calling for me. And I said this at the conference: people rarely have the opportunity to operate in the capacity, dual capacity of career and callings. And I've been blessed and fortunate enough to be in both. I want to thank God. I want to thank our fire chief, because he's been super supportive, along with the command staff. With anything I ask, they pretty much say yes. But that's because they believe in what I'm passionate about, as well as the community. Community supports everything we want to do in the fire department. I was telling Brother Green, we can take a program to the gas station and make something out of it. But they trust us and believe us in what we're trying to do with our community. It ain't about show. It ain't about being a circus. It ain't about any of those things. And, you know, just somebody I know I want to thank. He might choke me out if I didn't. Just kidding. But Freddie Brooks, I
I don't know if he's a cheerleader or if he's the coach. I don't know which one he is. He switched roles on me. So he's been very, very instrumental with a lot of things that I do. And people don't understand when I was going through some things, 14, 15-year-old boy, didn't know he was a firefighter. And he impacted my life at that point. And he didn't know he would show up again in my life at 41 or 40, at 35. He showed up again, and we didn't know we was going to meet again. But he impacted my life as a firefighter. And that's the role that we play in our community, not just first responders, medical calls, and fighting fires, but real community risk reduction starts before the risks even identify and show themselves. So I thank y'all for this moment. I'm going to try to take it in. I have a hard time taking things in with awards and being recognized. So I appreciate y'all and y'all support with over the years just saying firefighters are doing a lot of work. We are in the community, and we pride ourselves on that. So thank you, and I'll be quiet now before I run over some more time.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, Councilwoman Knoll, and congratulations again, Lieutenant Green. Council, can I get a motion on the minutes from our previous meeting, please?
So moved.
All right, we do have a motion properly seconded, and the minutes will stand as published. And council, look with me, if you will, at our agenda for tonight's meeting. And as you do, hit your lights if you have any questions or comments on any items. There are a handful of items, ordinances on final reading, and one ordinance on first reading. Councilwoman Dudley, you're recognized.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. And I guess you were getting to resolutions. I was just waiting for you. We good?
Sure. I haven't seen any other lights, so the floor is yours. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. So council, I did send out, because I was very opposed to the amendment, the update to the council rules. I was able to get some clarity on that. So I did send out some proposed amendments to you all, I think yesterday morning. Nicole shared them and wanted to just kind of discuss those briefly, get your feedback on it, and see what you all thought in regards to it. I wasn't completely opposed to the rules, but the ultimate goal, the amendments are intended to clarify committee structure, broaden participation by duly elected council members, preserve the legislative authority of the full council, and align committee activity with actual legislative and departmental needs, and clarify the distinction between legislative oversight and executive administration. So there were, I don't know, maybe eight of those. So do y'all want me to go through all of them, or do y'all just want me to kind of highlight and then we can discuss them? Okay. So the first one dealt with the standing committees. Actually, don't worry about that one. That was one I got clarity on that one, so don't worry about that one. The second one was regarding which was one of my major concerns, was about the number of committees we had. So my proposal, instead of the 6, to move it to 9, and that's always open to change as well, to keep budget and finance, planning and zoning, economic development, make community development its own separate committee, because it in my opinion, it does need it. Parks and Public Works, government operations, public safety, and then housing and education. I think that's a total of 9. But of course, that can always be adjusted, but I do highly recommend keeping community development separate, and as well as education. The other piece was the description for the community development, education, and housing. There were 3 different descriptions for that, for each one of those as well. I don't, if you want me to read it, I can. And then moving down through their standing committee, additional meetings, there was just some concerns about the timeliness or scheduling of those meetings. Standing committee shall meet as opposed to meet no less than every 2 months. Sometimes we don't have much to discuss. So the amendment would state standing committees shall meet as needed based upon referred legislation, departmental updates, legislative priorities, public policy matters, and other business within the committee's jurisdiction. Standing committees shall not be required to meet on a predetermined schedule when there is no pending legislation, those things I just mentioned. That way, it takes value of our time and know that it meets when we need to meet based on these things and not meeting just because of the 2 months. Because sometimes you don't need to meet. Like right now, we don't necessarily need. I saw the meeting this morning about the peer cities, which I love that. But we don't necessarily need a budget meeting right now, so we don't want to force something when we don't need it. That way it keeps our times, together. Non-assigned members, this was another concern. Non-assigned members attending a committee meeting may participate in discussion at the discretion of the committee chair, but shall not vote at the meetings. That's the issue because each of us are duly elected, and though the item will still roll out to the whole body, I believe all standing committees all standing committee meetings shall be open to every duly elected member, as it already was listed as, of the council. And any duly elected council member may attend, participate in discussion, make motions, and vote on matters before the committee, regardless of their assignment. That way, everybody's voice is heard at that table. The participation and vote of those duly elected council members present shall count toward the quorum and shall be included in the committee's vote. No council member shall be excluded from participation solely because that council member is not assigned to that committee. So the goal is to make sure that every council member gets a vote in every committee that they decide to participate in, because, everybody may not show up for, depending on how we do the committees. We may still do them out here, you may do them a different day, or whatever the case is, but based on who's there for that committee will determine the quorum. The next one, that's neither here nor, you could decide on that or not. A quorum of 3 members required, just changing that over to be, a quorum of standing committee shall consist of a simple majority of the duly elected council members present at the meeting. Any duly elected council member participating in the meeting shall be counted toward the quorum and shall have the right to participate in discussion and vote matters. Kind of the same thing in the same space of what I just mentioned. A recommendation of passage with amendments or denial shall advance the item to the council's agenda. That recommendation of the amended language, a recommendation of passage with amendments or denial shall advance the item to the council agenda with the committee's recommendation attached. A committee recommendation is advisory and shall not prevent the full council from considering or voting upon the legislation, so that it still moves, that recommendation is attached, and we can still, decide what we want to do based on that, based on our own research. A recommendation of denial shall not constitute final action of the legislation. That's kind of just to clean up a little bit or tighten up a little bit. The full council retains authority to approve, amend, as we do, deny or otherwise dispose of the legislation in accordance with the city code. And again, the last 2 deal with the utilization report. Just delete the paragraph. If any committee held fewer than 6 meetings, we retain the utilization report because I think that is great. I think keeping up with what we're actually doing, what we're focused on, that is, I really like that. Retain the utilization report, but clarify that meeting frequency alone is not a measure of committee effectiveness. So just because I meet a lot doesn't mean that I'm doing a lot. So committee effectiveness should be evaluated based upon timely consideration of referred legislation, quality of legislation, deliberation, departmental and stakeholder engagement, responsiveness to matters within its jurisdiction, and the extent to which committee work advances the legislative business of the council. So that's kind of, I don't want to say quantifying it as opposed to qualifying it. And then the last one deals with oversight. I saw that a lot in the language, and I didn't see a definition of it. So I wanted to share this, and really, for this, I really, really would like your feedback on this, council. For the purpose of the rules of operation, and we will put this in here, legislative oversight means the council's lawful review, examination, and evaluation of city programs, policies, expenditures, legislation, and the implementation and outcomes of laws and policies enacted by the council. Legislative oversight may include receiving reports and departmental updates, requesting information relevant to legislative matters, reviewing performance measures and outcomes, conducting hearings, evaluating policy effectiveness, and making legislative recommendations. Legislative oversight shall not be construed to authorize the council or any standing committee to direct, supervise, manage, or otherwise perform the day-to-day administrative or operational functions of the mayor, city departments, officers, employees, or other executive functions, except as expressly authorized by the city charter, state law, or ordinance. So those are the amendments, and I noted the ones that, I got a little bit more clarity on, so we don't have to, I'm not submitting those. But would love your feedback on those amendments, and to see, where y'all want to land on those. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, for this legislation.
We do have a few lights here, and so we'll just go in the order in which they're queued. Councilwoman Burrs, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Councilwoman Dotley, for submitting these amendments. I think it clarifies some things for me in addition. And the only thing that I have some additional questions about or would like to discuss is I still don't have a clear understanding of when the committees will meet. And I guess that will come who's going to decide that? Will it be the chair of the committee? What determines that meeting schedule? And I also think we need to flesh out a little bit more what the additional responsibility of our council staff is going to be, because I see this as adding some additional responsibility to them and making sure that we're talking about the extra workload or what that estimated workload might be for staff when it comes to meeting minutes. And if I imagine that these meetings are going to have to be public, so that's going to require meeting minutes. In addition, if we're having meetings outside of these regular Tuesday meetings. So I think we have to look a little bit closer at what that's going to entail. Other than that, I appreciate the simplicity that you've given this. I think it's incorporated the changes that I feel address the substantive and better management of the committee structure that you referred to in your first proposal. So I support these. Thank you.
Okay. Vice Chair Elliott, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Councilwoman Dotley, I really do appreciate you taking the time to provide your feedback on this. As a council, we don't always disagree, but I think this is a great example of how we can work through what those issues are and try to find as common ground as much as possible. We won't always land on the same footing, but at least we're making sure that we're heard and we can work through those conversations. And same thing goes for you, Councilwoman Burrs. Councilwoman Burrs, I want to ask if this is okay, Mr. Chair. You had an additional point outside of additional responsibilities of council staff. Can I ask her that question? You okay with that?
Yeah, I think that was probably directed towards you, so that's fine. Sure.
So when I don't have a good sense of when you're talking about
The meetings.
an annual utilization report, you have the additional meetings, which I imagine are going to be public. It's not just our time, it's council staff time, it's maybe AV assistants. So I think when we finalize these rules, I think we have to incorporate the other folks that are going to be involved because it's on top of what they're already doing on a day-to-day basis. So I think we have to consider that as part of the plan. What's the capacity to meet what we're talking about, whatever the changes end up being? Because I agree that it's important for us to come up with some sort of report system so that we're able to evaluate what we are doing. And I'd like to build into that what our responsibilities are to that. Maybe there's a certain level of reporting that we fill out, that we submit to the clerk, if you will, if that's going to be the process. So the clerk isn't 100% responsible for all of the reporting. Maybe, I don't know, but I think there's still a little bit of that needs to be fleshed out.
Okay. Thank you, Councilwoman.
Thank you for
I'm going to start with this. Start at a high level, then break it down. I first had this idea coming into council. I had of watching council from afar I think I tossed this around to a couple of my colleagues on this idea. Before I even got inaugurated, Councilwoman Hill and I had talked about this, and she says, well, give it a minute. Let's fill it out first. Let's see what works and what doesn't. And even from my initial concept to now, it has evolved based on that experience. The reason I pushed this proposal is for a couple reasons. It allows council to hone in on all of the functions of government that touches our legislative purview, without necessarily having to follow the buckets of departments, right? Because how we have it set up now, our committee structure directly mirrors that of the administration's departments. And, that works, but it also misses a lot of things that touches our horizon. So how do you make sure that we as a council in these committees can capture all of the functions of government while also leaving a lot of space for the administration to set up their organizational chart however they need to see fit? Because even as we currently sit, there are some functions of government that we miss. Currently, we have no oversight when it comes to legislative oversight. Let me clarify that. No legislative oversight when it comes to HR. But this council is responsible for approving and amending the employee information guide that sits with HR. But we have no measures to work through that properly. Technology services, for example. It has some of the largest expenditures that come out of this government, and there's no legislative oversight, but we approve those dollars every single week because they touch and they handle every single technology related issue for all departments across this enterprise. There's no conversations with that to make sure that what we vote on as a council is actually properly been lived out, right? Boards and commissions. While we as a council may not appoint every board position, we confirm every board position. And I have seen, since I've been on here, there are some things with our boards and commissions that just are not working well. There's no type of legislative oversight to make sure that these positions and these boards are working in the way that they're intended to best serve our community. So it's the effectiveness to make sure we're capturing all of the roles of government. Secondly, the efficiency part of it. This council is a part-time board. Many of us have other jobs and other obligations, and in order to do this job well, it can be a lot at times, right? And for me, for example, I have no issue if a group of my colleagues run point on a particular project or a subject matter that I trust them to do what's best for the city of Chattanooga and their districts and take that information back for the council as a whole to consider. I think this was on great display today at our strategic planning conversation. We have colleagues who are working on different pieces of legislation, and I'm excited to see what they bring forward. So I know it's going to benefit all of us. What Councilwoman Burrs is doing for vacant structures, that's going to benefit District 9 greatly. I, like many other people, have heard many complaints about vape shops popping up like weeds everywhere. That's going to be a great addition to my district as well, but the whole community. And it allows us to build capacity. I don't need to attend every single committee meeting. If all 9 of us attend every single committee meeting, that's not a committee at that point. That's the council as a whole meeting on each single issue. And it really just kind of debunks the whole definition of what a committee is. So that's the second piece. How do you expand our capacity for the work that allows us to, certain folks to lean in on subject areas that they're really passionate about so they can help pick up those projects, carry it over the hump, and present it ultimately to this full body. So that's why you see the structure broken down the way it is, right? And my thought, like, hey, we didn't need all 9 or 10 committees. How do we package it in certain buckets, right? Because the way I have also seen the role of committee chairs, and I think I may have a different definition of this than others, I see the committee chair's job no more than just running this meeting. just like Chairman Davis does, right? And I know historically that may have looked differently for other people, and I understand and I honor it. That's just a perspective I hold. But there is one thing that stood out. I actually had Leanne, she brought this up to me first, Leanne Wiles, and Councilwoman Dotley brought this up, and I even had Brother Kevin Muhammad, he brought this up in some form or fashion. You know, how do you make sure that down the line, each council person is entitled to at least having representation on X amount of committees, right? And that change is in the proposals I presented today. Each council person should be appointed to at least 2 standing committees. Also understanding that some of us don't always have the capacity to attend every single one of them. But how I laid this out, it allows every single council person to attend any committee meeting that they want. Now, I do like something that Councilwoman Dotley presented that I think is a really great compromise. There's a language here that stood out to me. It's the fourth to the last bullet point she had. Any duly elected city council member participating in the meeting shall be counted towards a quorum and shall have the right to participate in discussion and vote on matters before that committee, regardless of committee assignment. I think that's a great compromise, right? You may have a committee of 3, and that standing committee member may not be able to make it for whatever reason. We have other obligations. We have other things we have to do for our district and the city. And another committee, a council person may be able to stand in, and they can continue that work and meet that quorum. But the third reason I created these is to help us create some type of level of accountability, right? We have some committees that just have not met at all, or may have met once since I have been on this dais for this year, right? And there are plenty of issues that we as a council in our legislative purview could lean in to provide legislative insights on, right? And so the thought of it is, how do we hold ourselves to a higher standard to making sure we're doing the work of the people? Now, the point of some of these rules, particularly asking us to meet every other month, that just means each committee will have to meet 6 times a year. And when I initially drafted that, I didn't think 6 meetings was a lot out of a 12-month period, and it provides some flexibility. But also, I want to be honest, I can't make anyone on this dais do anything. I cannot make a committee chair hold a meeting. I cannot make a council person show up to work. It is up to them to say how they're going to show up in their duly elected role. That's their purview. I think the only thing was to help us create a standard that we can hopefully achieve. And when I looked at this, I didn't think 6 meetings a year was too much. I am open to hearing more, but I believe each one of these committees as they stand, or even if they alter, there's enough work that happened in these departments that will warrant plenty of work on behalf of these committees to fill 6 meetings a year, in my opinion. Now, one thing that I really probably appreciate more than anything else is this definition of legislative oversight. And I support this one wholeheartedly, because there's been a lot of confusion about what does it mean to provide legislative oversight. Me, and this is just me as a legislator, if I vote on any expenditure, any budget, any policy, any program, anything that requires my vote, it is my obligation as a legislator to make sure that those things live out the way that we intended. And sometimes they don't. And that's okay. I don't think people are malicious about it. We receive audit reports that show that sometimes they don't live out the way we intend. And if we don't, by happenstance, receive an audit report, or it somehow stumbles its way into the public, oftentimes we don't know what's happening. And that is the intent of our government, is to provide checks and balances. Not to instruct the administration on how to do their day-to-day jobs, but to make sure that we're showing up the best version of ourselves for Chattanooga and our communities every single day. And more importantly, that we're good stewards of the dollars they have entrusted us to oversee. That's it. And I think this definition draws those lines clearly, and I hope it provides clarity to everybody on this dais and everybody we work with what it actually means to provide legislative oversight. So those are my high-level thoughts on this. That is my intent for this piece of legislation. I know it is a big haul and a big overhaul for this council, but I truly believe it would make us better for it on the back end and make us better representatives for the people we stepped up and served. So those are some of the points that I really can definitely support out of some of these amendments. I am open to others. Just because I didn't mention everything does not mean I'm closed off to everything. But I'm open to others, but that's where I stand. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilwoman Hill, you're recognized.
Thank you. So Councilwoman Dotley, thank you for providing an itemized list of your suggested amendments to this item. As I've looked at this proposal, the thing that has been important to me is improving meaningful participation in council work. And actually today I just happened upon, I was looking at my drafts folder. I don't know if y'all get stuff stuck in there sometimes. But I had a draft email that I wrote to myself as like a little to-do list from the 15th of July last year saying, examine ways to make committee work more meaningful. And it's just interesting that we had spoken about it when Councilman Elliott was elected before he was sworn in. We talked about it then. I had it on my mind a little more than a year ago. I'm glad we're at this point where we're considering it. And it's been interesting to witness the dialogue and some of the concerns. I have the red line from you, Councilman Elliott, and then I have the chart from Councilwoman Dotley. So as I look at those, the key thing that I see is that item 1 on Councilwoman Dotley's about everyone should be appointed and no fewer. So Councilwoman Dotley, you said that your first item isn't one you want us to consider. Okay. All right, I'm gonna mark that out. Okay. So because we got a check mark by that. Okay. Standing committees. I was hearing what you were saying about 6, and you also talked a lot about people having more work to do. And I wonder, is 9 the right number or is 8 the right number versus 6? It's not a hill I'm going to die on, but I do think 9 makes it a little tricky. And I'm not sure what I would suggest necessarily about collapsing them based on the breakout that you've done. But I could see, even though they're in different departments, I do see that housing and planning and zoning are a nice match in that we know as a council that a lot of the way forward about how we use our land is part of how we make our housing policy. So that would, if anybody was looking for a suggestion to go to 8, that might be one. But I also could see potentially education and community development collapsing into a single committee because community development carries so much of our youth work, and we do education for the most part in the early learning space, though obviously we have things in Hamilton County Public Schools as well. So just some thoughts there. As for the timing of the meetings, honestly, when you were saying it was too many meetings, I thought maybe you were thinking it was every 2 weeks. Like, to me, every six a year, every other month feels like a cadence that if we really want to do meaningful work in any of these spaces, there's plenty to keep us busy over 6 months. And I'll give an example of something like in economic development. we want to look again at our TIF and our pilot policies. That's something that, we refined over the course of the last few years. We know we need to look at it again. We're always learning. And what I have noticed in our current committee structure is that, and this will go to the thoughts about the quorum, is that when everyone is assigned, no one is assigned. And so I think there's plenty of work across either 6, 8, 9 committees. I think there's plenty of really meaningful work to be done, not busy work, meaningful work to be done. And I think that work is better done when we are in a situation sitting around our conference table, digging in on something. Today, talking about the benchmark cities that we might choose. What I recognize in that conversation is we still need some clarity on what do we really want to count as to who's a city like us? How do we decide what our markers are for what our aspirations are? How do we want to incorporate that into, how does administration feel comfortable incorporating that into what they do in their departments? In my opinion, none of those things are done well with a committee of 9 around a dais. I find that when you've got people who come to a meeting ready to work on that one thing, you get better work done. One of my truisms is that at any meeting, 20% of the people will be prepared and 100% of people will have an opinion. Just from my board work everywhere. So I think if we have a smaller group who has expressed interest, I personally don't think a chair should assign committees just willy-nilly, but based on the interest of the council people, that those folks working together will be able to move things forward. And bring us better ideas than we would have if we're just like committee-ified, group think something at a table and try to come up with a decision based on an agenda where we have 3 minutes left, right? Because if I'm here, I want to do really good work. And I think that's what the people of Chattanooga deserve, and I think that's what we all want to do, is really good work. And you can't do it in a dais like this. You're just never going to get very far. So, and honestly, I don't think Chris Acuff should get to be the one who decides what our benchmark cities are, right? Like, we look to him, but if we're only group thinking it, then what we end up with is a consultant saying, okay, here's what you should do, and us being like, oh, well, okay, we only had 15 minutes, so let's move on. And we're really smart folks. Like, we can make good decisions that will put us on a path as a city in a meaningful way. So to that end, I am concerned about the quorum piece because, absolutely anybody on council can and should go to any meeting that they want to and participate and share their opinions. But if we are trying to use our committees in such a way that they actually are identifying goals, working toward meeting those goals, and creating deliverables for the people of Chattanooga, I think there needs to be an understanding of responsibility. And so if there are 3 people assigned to a committee or 5 people assigned to a committee, it should be a priority to be there. But also, what I wouldn't want to have happen is that a quorum can be represented by one person. It's like, if everybody can be part of the quorum, then the quorum can be one person, right? Because if any elected member of the city council is there. And because of the way that our structure works, that something will be discussed in committee, much in the way that we look to the planning commission to talk about cases and make a recommendation. And then we come together and we review cases and we're able to ask our questions. By no means does it limit any council person's ability to participate in those discussions. I mean, I can't go to Planning Commission and vote. Councilwoman Burrs has a vote on Planning Commission. But if Planning Commission were constantly evolving by who was sitting there and how prepared or unprepared they were for that meeting, and a quorum was constantly changing, I just don't think that would be good for them. And I don't think that it would be good for us. I think we set an expectation. I personally think, to Councilwoman Burr's question about scheduling, I mean, my first thought of any kind of committee is, if I'm the committee chair, I'm going to try to make it on a Tuesday. You know, I mean, and with only 6 meetings a year, and you're kind of planning an hourly block, I'm sure that our clerk could help us do that without overlapping. And, you know, if it can't be on a Tuesday, that does get more difficult and potentially could add work for our staff. But it's work that they are, that whole office is designed to support this type of record keeping. So the quorum thing, I couldn't really support at this point unless the conversation moves me forward. The other thing I would add is, you know, when I first read these proposed committees, there is a lot of things that fall under those committees. And something that makes me feel glad, I would say, is that, I don't know about you guys, but when I was elected, I didn't know everything. I still don't know everything, you know? And yet when you're a committee chair, you're kind of expected to become the expert on that thing. Because we're a committee of 9. And if no one is in charge, everybody's is, you know? So you're expected to be the one that, I was education and innovation. Thanks, Chairman, for giving me that one. I was like, okay, now I'm going to learn all about 311, you know? And I did. But like thinking about some of these as larger buckets, but also with multiple people assigned, you have a bigger bucket, but you have more people to carry the water. And you don't have to be a subject matter expert on everything. You can work together and also learn about other things that maybe you wouldn't have before. Like it could be, you know, as a new council person, I know that I always thought, gosh, I'd love to get to be the chair of economic development one day, because that was something I didn't know a lot about. I wanted to get to learn it. And to be able to be on a committee and learn that without being chair, but be closer to what's happening, I think could be very useful in terms of leadership development on council. So those are my thoughts, and I'm glad that we have meaningful things to talk about today. Thank you.
All right. Councilwoman Knoll, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Councilwoman Dotley, for your proposed amendments. I agree to the changes that you have made because it gives us the right to vote for our district. When you take 3 individuals and put them on a committee, and they are the ones that make the decision for my district, your district, or anyone else, not knowing anything about what you need to know about my district in reference to say that you can attend a meeting but not have an opportunity to voice your opinion or to vote, that's useless. What is the purpose of being there if you can't vote? When we were elected for these seats, we were voted in these seats. No one took their votes from the individuals that voted us to put us in this seat. So to say that the chair or whomever or vice chair would make the decision of those 3 individuals that would make the decision for each district is unacceptable to me. I couldn't go along with that. Taking anyone's vote away from them to do anything is unacceptable. I mean, I encourage people to vote all the time, but then to limit my ability to vote and deny me the opportunity to speak for my constituents and voice my opinion is unacceptable for me as well. And like Vice Chair said, Everybody's grown. Can't nobody make anybody do anything, and I've already voiced that more than once. No one can tell you what to do, but I will say the fact that your amendment does give us the right to vote. 6, 8, 9. I mean, I don't understand. It's 9 now. What is the purpose of having 8 versus 9? I don't get that. The purpose of having 6 versus 8, other than once again to take away that ability for that person to speak for their district or for whatever the issue might be. So I support the amendments. I definitely could not support the fact that the chair gets to decide what 3 individuals can make the decision on those, whatever is being made. I can't go along with that because once again, it's taken away from. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Councilwoman Burrs, you're recognized.
Mr. Chair, there may be others who have not spoken yet, and
I
I'll
do
yield my time to
Yeah.
them first.
There wasn't, but now there is. I see Councilman Henderson who's not spoken, so I'll make my way around. Councilman Henderson, you're recognized. Maybe? No?
Not yet.
All right, let me keep hitting buttons.
There
There
we
you go.
go. Keep pushing buttons.
That's right.
Thank you, Councilman Elliott, for bringing this forward. One of the things that I've always felt like since I've been on the council that our current committee structure has always been clunky to me. I mean, it just, committees of the whole didn't make a lot of sense. And to be honest, I never wanted to put that much energy into trying to change it. And I appreciate you putting the energy forward to try to make this better. I support the proposal as you've presented it right here. I don't know if you're considering other amendments, but I'm ready to vote on this tonight. That's all.
Okay. Councilwoman Burrs, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I appreciate everybody's comments because I think that I feel like we're so much closer than we were several weeks ago. And it's interesting when we had our strategic planning meeting today, how these 3 initiatives came out of our conversations that I could totally see going to these various work groups, if you will, that almost mirror what we're talking about, expanding our committee meetings into these 3 initiatives that we've talked about. So I feel like we're so much closer. I still have, I think the things that I would like to see incorporated into this proposal, in addition to, I'm not going to get super heartburn about narrowing down the committees. I think we should keep the committees that we have because I do think there's plenty of work to do under each topic. And whether we combine planning and zoning and housing together, I see the benefit to that. I could also see housing being its own entity and planning and zoning, so I could go either way with that. But I'd like to recommend that wherever we end with this, that as a chairperson for me, having a plan of work that I submit that kind of gives the committee members an idea of what they can expect as they're serving on that committee, whether it's going to be 6 meetings or what are the things that we're going to be focusing on. I mean, we had 3 topics today that we could all walk out of here today and schedule 3 different meetings for those of us that want to pay more or put more attention into those 3 topics. So it's almost like what you've talked about doing evolved. We saw an example of how it can evolve just out of legislation that the 3 of us, that 3 different entities brought forward, that I'd almost like to see how that pans out versus totally changing the committee structure, because I feel like we did some sort of committee structure today by saying there's these 3 topics that we want to explore. So I'm still of the mindset that I don't think we need to throw the baby out with the bathwater, that we have good committees. It's just a matter of setting some expectations for those committees and finding out, like we did today, where people's interests lie. So thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all that I have to say.
Councilman Clark, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Davis. Councilman Elliott, because I'm on the same line with Councilman Henderson. I do support your proposal as is, and I'm open-minded to some of the suggestions. I do want to go to Councilwoman Dotley's proposed amendment as it relates to the language and the definition of oversight. I can think back towards my time in Schoolhouse Rock when we are taught the difference between the legislative and the executive branch. And I didn't think we had to define that because I thought it was just kind of one of those things that was just understood that the purpose of when we were elected, in understanding that we're not the chief executive. It's the mayor who's the chief executive. The legislative branch clearly is defined not only in our constitution of our country, but just in our oath of office, that the legislative branch is a check and balance to the executive branch. That we can review, we can evaluate, we can monitor. Those are some of the functions of the legislative oversight. I think we have gotten really, really caught up on this word oversight and maybe being confused with our jobs as council because I don't want to do the day-to-day operation and supervision of the city. We cannot. None of those people in the back report directly to us. We do not have the legal capacity or the charter constitutional capacity to fire, hire, direct, to do any of that. So I do like the definition, and I'm not opposed to that being in there. But one of the things that's missing that I think is key to our legislative authority, there's one word, and that's accountability. To review, to evaluate. This definition, by the way, is spot on, I think, about what our legislative purposes should be. But, part of what we also have to do when we evaluate, question, monitor, review, request reports is if there's per se an audit that comes back and we find that there's maybe fraud, waste, and abuse. We hold our constituents expect us to hold the legislative branch accountable. That word is missing in that definition for me. And I'm not opposed to that because you can define oversight through multiple ways. But I think through definition, I wonder if that puts us kind of like in a cage. And if it's necessary to put that into the proposal. I'd be curious to know Councilman Elliott's thoughts on that. But I do want to be open-minded to this. I think that the amendments have some reasoning to it. I do want to go to the proposed 6 standing committees because I don't think it has anything to do with the number per se. Like if it was 2 committees or 3 committees. I want us to focus on what the purpose of this is. The purpose is not to make sure everybody is chair. It's not to make sure that we're condensing things. It is for efficiency. Like when we combine things, from my understanding, when you were elected Councilman Vice Chairman Elliott, I remember having this conversation with you. You were trying to streamline the process to make it a little bit better so that everybody could do more work. And for the public, actually, for us to lean in more. We hear from the public a lot that they would like for us to do more substantive dialogue in committee, meaning the public can come to things other than strategic planning. I hate the fact that we push everything in strategic planning. I think we should do committee meetings at 6:00 on Tuesday so that the general public can come and hear us deliberate legally, right? Because we got sued. But for us to deliberate legally about things that concern them, like homelessness, they would like the committee idea is not to silence a voice, because you still get a vote, one voice, one vote. After this goes to committee, because that's the definition of committee, it still has to come through the legal process to this dais. Like, if I never attend a committee meeting, I almost want to do this as an experiment. Like, not take a committee, not go to a committee meeting, and I guarantee you I will still submit the exact same amount of legislation on this dais because the council rules have not changed. Is that any council member, because everybody likes to say who can and tell you what to do and what you cannot do. You're right. We don't like to do that. I personally do not have children. You still can, with one council person, if you never attend another committee meeting in your life or chair one, you can still get with another colleague and bring it to the dais and before we vote on it, per Robert's Rules of Order, you can still discuss it, but you still get one vote, one voice in that process. So I might experiment and never come to a committee meeting and see if that still works, because I don't believe my district will not ever have a voice if I never go to a committee meeting again, because I'm going to sit on this dais and I'm going to vote, because everything that comes in or out of committee still got to come right here. And you still get one vote. And in this America, it's the majority still rules. There's, 5 or 6 or whatever. So I want us to stay focused on the fact that the committee structure was not designed to silence, to dilute someone's voice, I hear all of those statements, and it is concerning for me as a person who champions the right to vote, right? Like, of course I don't want to take away your right to vote. I don't want you to take away my right to vote or my district's voice by your voice. The council rules are still the council rules. If you attend a committee meeting or not, you can still partner with your colleague to bring any legislation. The committee is just an opportunity for us to go a little deeper. That's all. You have the choice to go as deep as you want. Elections happen every 4 years. Your people get to decide if you went deep enough. For me, I would like more time to sit down in a legal way in the public to really hash out more legislation. I would love to see more legislation come out of this council on multiple things, because as we see from audits, as we continue to work with the legislative branch on bulk or brush pickups, there are some policy things that we really need to hash out. And it's very difficult to do it sometimes in this 9-member executive business meeting, because this is the business meeting, right? And so anyway, so Councilman Elliott, or Vice Chairman Elliott, I'd be curious to know if you could share this with your colleague. I don't know who's up next, but what portions of the amendment are you comfortable? I know there was, let me just say for the record, the standing committee structures, I'm okay with how those are. I am not opposed to the definition of oversight being included in that. I think that's important. But that's probably about the only other portions of this amendment I would support. And I'd be curious to know, just through your leadership, because it is your legislation, if you could give some guidance to where you are leaning in support, and so we can move the discussion on and be prepared to vote after the recess. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Dottley, you're recognized.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and thank you all so much for your comments, which is what I was hoping to get some feedback from you all about what you all thought about it, and everything. And so just circling back to Councilwoman Hill, in combining those committees, I think housing plan and zoning, affordable housing is fine, or education and community development is fine. However, whichever we land on, I don't mind getting something to fill for that if as an amendment. Also, for Councilman Clark, you made a very valid point for the legislative oversight in regards to the accountability piece, and that is not in here. So if you can give me till we come back from recess, then I can add that in there. So because I didn't think about that one for there. And I guess at the end of the day, I'm not dying on the hill for committees. Okay. So where I land on this is just where I land. I'm okay with, changing the number of committees. Of course, I do believe like some departments are just bigger departments. They just have a lot going on. So I do kind of stand by community development being its own separate one. And as the current chair of that, given the work that we are doing, that is quite extensive, that does need to stand on its own. Adding education, I think would be fine, given that, like for instance, James A. Henry Center is going to have the Head Start in it. You know what I mean? So that's there. And then the ideal around the plan and housing is fine. The other pieces of it, again, to Councilman Clark's point, we're still gonna have the vote at the end of the day, whether it's coming out or whatever. So like I said, I'm not dying on the hill for this. I'm gonna tell you that right now. But still wanted to make note of that. But those two things, making sure that we have some of those committees broken out with the larger departments, as well as the legislative oversight definition there is important. I do, again, like the utilization report. Not a fan of a bunch of meetings, and 6 is a lot, but that's fine. Again, not dying for this. So those are the ones. So those two, if the council is amenable to that, if I could just go ahead and get that, add that accountability to that, and then look at those committees and just whichever two y'all, I mean, if y'all okay with combining, I think the housing plan, housing was already there, and then education and community development, that's fine. The rest of those, it's just, it is what it is. But those will be the two that I would look to add as an amendment, is the legislative oversight with the accountability, and then those the committee ones. Okay, so that's it, Mr. Chair and Council, thank you so much for the conversation. It is greatly appreciated. As I was drafting this, I wasn't sure, what was landing. So I just do appreciate you all for that. So thank you so much.
We have Councilman Clark.
Oh,
Yeah.
Councilman, can I yield to Councilman Elliott? Are you on
Well,
the,
he was
are you on the
next.
board? Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna come around to him at last because I know a lot of questions
I
were directed
wanted
to him.
to offer a compromise in an area before you speak, if that's okay. Going back to the amount of times that we meet. Right now, if we meet quarterly, that is how many times a year? And, I understand that 6, depending on the workload of departments, might seem, a lot. And I'd be curious if you would be open by utilizing the language at least quarterly, which is 4, but not limited to. Do you know what I'm saying? I am open to that. If 6, because I get how, for me, I could do 6, but what I can do doesn't mean that if somebody else cannot do it, does not mean it's not something, that there's something wrong with that. But I do believe that your intent, and I want to make sure that people understand the intent and purpose of you setting a time, was so that committees who were not meeting were actually meeting, so that we could have some oversight discussion in that manner. So I'd be curious to know, and I'll yield back to you, Vice Chairman Elliott, in that regard to Councilwoman Dotley's point, would you be open to amending that to at least quarterly meetings, which mean as a committee chair, you could host as many as you like. What this language says is at least 4, at least once a quarter. And if you're one of those very ambitious people, you can, when I was the comm dev, I met every month on purpose. So, and that might not be amendable, for most people, but that was what I thought was needed at that time. And I think again, your purpose is to create an at least that you are meeting enough times to discuss some of the matters at hand. So I would like to Councilwoman Dotley's amendment to kind of meet in the middle a little bit as a compromise to amend that language. Now, I'm okay with the 6, but I'd be curious to know what your thoughts are about quarterly, at least quarterly, but not limiting a council person's ability to have 6 or 7 meetings a year. So anyway, that's all.
Okay. Vice Chair Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, I do appreciate you guys for leading on this conversation. This went so much better than last time. I appreciate y'all. Councilwoman Burns, I want to start with you on a couple of your points. You asked earlier about the additional responsibilities of council staff. The thought behind this was it would be the same level of responsibility as if all 8 or 9 of our current committees regularly met, right? So at any moment, we could have if these rules didn't change, then every committee chair just start calling meetings every single week. And for every Tuesday, it's the same workload. It's the flexibility that this office has to meet the needs of where we are currently. And so it's really not changing a lot. It's just setting a different cadence. One that hopefully can be a little bit better for the staff so they can anticipate what their workload could look like down the line instead of them happening a little bit more sporadic. That's the first point. The next point you had, how do you schedule these meetings? The intent was that these committees, the committee chair and the committee members would decide times and dates that work for them, right? They don't need to be standing. That's one of the perks of spreading the workload out. So people can figure out based on their schedules. If it's just 3 people on there, the 3 standing committee members say, hey, this is the time we meet. And if other council people want to join, that's great. And if you want to join that committee as an official member, you can do that too, right? You can have as many folks you want on that committee. That gives you that flexibility. So that's the second point I wanted to capture. Answering the question earlier for some of the things I'm looking to support from these amendments. The first, I am okay supporting this piece about the quorum piece. I read it earlier. I can read it again. I'm willing to compromise on this. Any duly elected council member participating in the meeting shall be counted towards a quorum and shall have the right to participate in discussion, vote on matters before the committee, regardless of committee assignment. That part I can support, what you had suggested. That's your 4th item from the top. It's not the entire paragraph from the bottom, excuse me. It's not the entire one. It's that middle chunk. Councilwoman Knoll, I think this will also help clarify some of your concerns a little bit more. But I want to specify that these committees, if they're hearing items of legislation, they do not vote on whether something becomes law or actually passes. They will leave committee if it is required with a favorable or unfavorable recommendation or even amendments for the entire council to consider. Every single thing that goes before a committee that requires a vote will only be decided ultimately by the 9 people duly elected on this council by all 9 districts representing the city of Chattanooga City Council. Things do not live and die in committee. I want to specify that. So that was intentional. So we are not limiting people's votes and voices, but hopefully with the ability for all council members to plug into any committee that they want, and all of these items come to the full council, it will hopefully eliminate concerns that it eliminates anybody's voice. That's the goal. The second piece is the legislative oversight. That piece I'm definitely looking to support. And I think it does make sense if we break up the community and break off community and community development, education, having their own committee. That makes sense for me. Economic and community development as it stands is a heavy load of a committee. As it stands, it does work more if you peel it off. That is something I can support. Councilman Clark, I am open and comfortable if you move it to quarterly. There just needs to be some type of baseline that these committees are working. That's my only thing. And let me say this again. There's a baseline on paper. You can't make nobody do anything. Can't make nobody like that's something you got to take up between you and your 20-some thousand constituents, however you show up to do your job. I think bi-monthly worked, but if somebody presents an amendment for quarterly, I'm fine with that too. And so that's all I got. Yep. And real quick for you, switch off. And Councilwoman Dollar, if you need help plugging up any of these for prepare for amendments, we can. Yeah.
Councilwoman Vers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Vice Chair. I appreciate the response. I think in regards to the staff and to Councilman Henderson's point, when he talked about the fact that the committees have never really operated to the full extent that maybe there was an intention, then I think this is going to change the staff's workload. So while I'm not opposed to asking them or having them be part of this, because they have to be, I think we need to bring them into the conversation and make sure that we're considering them as part of that workload. Because if 3 of us decide to meet on a Tuesday, starting at 9 o'clock in the morning, and they're preparing for our afternoon meetings, then I think that has to be taken into consideration with the stuff that they're already doing on a Tuesday. So that's, I don't think that it's not their responsibility because it's their expectation to support our work. I just hope that we will bring them into the conversation and not just make decisions without including them, because I think it is a consideration that we listen to what their workload is on a Tuesday or another day so that they can be part of the process. And then I'll go back to also the recommendation that we submit some sort of plan of work at the beginning of each term or each year so that everybody has an idea of what the meeting schedule is going to be like, whether it's going to be quarterly or that chair anticipates that there might be more of a workload based on what that group plans to do for that year. So thank you. I appreciate all the feedback.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilman Henderson, you're recognized.
So while we're building this in the air, this plane in the air, I don't know if we're gonna present an alternate version at a later time or what. If we're going to state that any council person showing up to a meeting constitutes as a quorum. In other words, we're starting out with 3 committee members. Like here, we know a quorum is 5 for us because we have 9 committee members. If we're going to establish that every council person that shows up to a committee meeting constitutes a quorum, at what point will we constitute a quorum? Will it be at when we start the meeting? Will it be at when we, ask for the motion to the minutes? I mean, at some point, I think the chairperson, if we're going to go down that road, the chairperson is going to have to declare we have, 7 members present and 5 will be the majority or whatever the quorum is. There's always you determine your majority by the quorum, correct? So if our quorum is going to change by whoever shows up, and what if somebody shows up in the middle of the meeting? Do they now constitute part of that quorum? And as a voting member. So I think we're going to have to think about, if we're going to do it that way, what's going to be the rules around deciding what a quorum is and at what point they can vote and all that. So just something to think about if we're going to start changing this as we go through here.
Okay. And Vice Chair Elliott, you're recognized.
Thank you, Councilman. I have an answer for that. Let's have a scenario. Let's say you're chairing the Budget Committee. And on that committee is you, Councilman Harvey, and Councilwoman Knoll, right? Let's say Councilman Harvey cannot make it, right? And the floor is you have to have at least a quorum of 3 to start, right? Councilman Harvey can't make it, but this week you're talking about the expenditures in technology services, or how we're looking on budgets, whatever you want to hold your hearing on, right? And Councilwoman Burrs says, hey, I intend on attending this committee. We got your quorum, right? You can not vote on things when you don't have a quorum. So you're correct. You cannot, and Phil, tell me if I'm wrong, you cannot approve the meetings. You cannot provide any recommendation for anything. But if you're holding a hearing to be heard on certain items, you can still have that meeting because it was publicly noticed. You just may not be able to cast a vote on anything. Am I wrong?
Normally, if you don't have a quorum, you can't vote on any item in the meeting and you have to adjourn and come back. That's the problem.
But you can still meet, but you just can't vote, correct?
Well, under Robert's rules, it's supposed to have a quorum of the body that's going to be there. That's
To even meet?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, then that's our answer on that, right? But in that case, when Councilman Harvey can't make it and Councilman Burrs does attend, you now have a quorum that can meet. And she can participate in this committee. She can vote on if that item needs a vote, favorable or whatnot. She can vote on the minutes, right? We've almost had this happen before, even on this council, where we've almost didn't have a quorum,
right? And if somebody leaves for emergency or whatnot, or somebody comes in, you all of a sudden have a quorum, there you go, right? It provides the flexibility. And I think trying to compromise with concerns, it also gives that flexibility and hopefully close down on some of those concerns of exclusion.
Maybe I didn't make my.
Hit your light.
I'm not concerned about the lack. I'm concerned about having more than 3 members present, and that changes the quorum.
So if let's say you have a committee that has 3 members on it, or 4 members. Let's say you got 4 members on a committee and the quorum is 3, right? If you have more people than needed, you've exceeded your threshold for the quorum. Everything else is just extra.
But you have established a new majority.
Yes, but I believe the
You have
language
established-
says in the rules that things go forward with a majority. So you're correct, yes. So if the quorum changes, that majority also does change, but it's still captured in the rules because it says it goes
At
forward
what
with the
time will
majority.
you determine the quorum? When you open the meeting?
When do we determine quorum now?
Normally, when you open the meeting.
All right, well, there we
Well,
go.
And I guess my point is, does the chair then state what the quorum is, so that they will then know what the majority vote is? You follow what I'm saying?
I see that, and if you need to put that in writing, we can. But I
Well, I'm just-
also think it gives some flexibility.
I'm just saying, we're
with the chair.
changing what you've proposed. And I think if we do that and we go to this, every member that shows up is gonna be part of the quorum.
Yep.
And what if somebody shows up 10 minutes late and they want to be part of that quorum?
If it's before a voting item, I think it's appropriate.
Well, I don't,
Well, if,
but that's my opinion.
and if you want to make an amendment for it, let's do it. Because this is your complaint, and I want to make
Well,
sure I'm hearing your issue just like everybody else.
I'm just saying, we're changing your original proposal
Yep.
and increasing the quorum.
So I'm gonna say this,
So I
Councilman.
think that's,
If you have a suggested amendment, I would love to hear it.
I just think we need to fix the issue that we could run into by having these quorums not set.
Help me create the suggested
Okay.
amendment.
Yeah.
Councilman Clark, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Davis. I think to Chairman, Councilman Henderson's point is that you have deviated away from, there is no amendment other than we would like to support it as is, because if we do not, to his point, how do we determine quorum based off who comes in, if they come in late? And so if we are going to pass this tonight, my preference is for us to make these adjustments during the recess or whenever, and to, because it's only, we are voting on it tonight, is that correct? With or without the amendments? Because it's still on the agenda?
In whatever form. yeah.
In whatever form,
Right.
okay. I don't know if there's a deferral, I don't know.
Well, that's to
But
be
I do want to
determined.
go on the record and saying to his point that, I support the quorum as is. I think there needs to be an established threshold, and I'll say that to my colleagues. Because if we offer an amendment to that, I think it creates this Pandora's box that Councilman Henderson is speaking of. So my intent tonight is to only vote for the amendment as it relates to the definition of the purpose of the rules of operations. And I need another clarity because you were kind of reading it too fast, Councilman, Vice Chairman Elliott. What were the committees that you were sorry, we're flipping pages. What were the committees that you were amendable to in the Dotley amendment?
All of them.
You said all of them?
No, okay. All of the committees that currently exist with the change of creating economic development as a standing committee
and I am okay with creating community and education committee.
So
Community
as-
development education.
So as it relates to the Dottley amendment,
What have we done different?
you are saying that the her recommendations are for budget and finance, planning and zoning, economic development, and community development. So you're only saying of what she's proposing, you would only accept separating economic and community development.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Everything else will remain the same.
Okay. So if
to
you,
clarify, it would also be planning, zoning, and housing would remain the same in the proposal. And economic and community development will be split from economic development and community development and education.
yeah,
7.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to get you to clarify, because we're a little confused based off what she's amending and what you're recommending, and we want to be respectful of that. So now you're saying that and I'm so sorry, Chairman Davis, to go at it. We're kind of open mic now, I would assume. You are amendable to separate economic and community development, which will leave us at 7 committee total.
I am open to amending it.
Okay.
I'm also open to it staying the same too.
Okay, well, we're just having a dialogue to see what
I am open to the amendments for compromise.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, I just wanted to be clear of what that is out of respect as the original author of the legislation, okay? So, all right, that's all, Chairman Davis.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Elliott.
So, I'll say this, I came into this piece very open to compromise and suggestions, and I appreciate Councilwoman Dottley and Councilman Burrs, Councilwoman Hill, everybody, Councilman Henderson. I appreciate everybody providing their input. I think ultimately what I would like to see is whatever suggested amendments people propose tonight, they go up for a vote. If they pass, great. If they fail, so be it. But I think this topic has gone on for some time. And I think this is a great time to land on it, to move on, and to see how we continue on as a council. Yeah. And that's it.
Okay. Right, the rest of the agenda. I do want to say, council, before we move on, I think it's been time very well spent. And I want to just thank everybody up and down the dais, not only for what you've said, but for the way that we've talked to each other tonight. That's the way we should do our work, and it's very encouraging. So as Vice Chair Elliott said, it went better than last time, to say the least. So, much appreciated. Are there any other questions on any other agenda items on tonight's agenda, council? All right, I don't see any lights, and so we will move on to next week's proposed agenda items. And please hit your lights if you have any questions. Councilwoman Hill, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Under resolutions, item B for next week, the applicant and the RPA team, or our LDO team, have worked together to clarify the issues. So a new version of this will be coming and will be announced on the public agenda on Friday. It's a very small change. As we will see it, it will seem small, but it's important that it be in there. But we're going to have it as a new version, and that'll be there for voting next week. Thank you.
Okay. All right, council, any other questions or comments about next week's agenda items? We will look then at our purchases up for approval this evening. So please hit your lights if you have any questions or comments. And seeing no lights, we will turn then to future considerations. Councilwoman Hill, you're recognized.
Hi, yeah, I have a question about item 1A under economic development. This is a grant that we are applying for a build out of the health clinic on the west side. It says in the explanatory note that it's the match will come from a James A. Henry earmark. So my question is, who is going to run this clinic? Will we have an MOU for management of the clinic? And then who will be eligible to receive care in this clinic?
Thank you. I'm Richard Beelan, Administrator for Economic Development. The clinic will be run by Erlanger Community Health Center.
Erlanger, okay.
And will it be open to anyone other? Yes, that is my assumption that it will be, but I'll confirm that for you, okay?
Well, no, I just want to know who it's open, like, so it'll be an Erlanger clinic, just a clinic in the area,
That's right.
like any other Erlanger clinic.
That's what I'm thinking, but I will confirm that for you.
Okay, that's really cool. All right, so we're building it and we're just providing a space for there to be a clinic and then somebody will run the clinic.
That's right. Erlanger will run it and there will be a lease. They will actually lease the space in the building from the city.
Okay, that could be a terrific model. Thank you. And that is, well, Mr. Chair, I would, another item, these Office of the City Attorney, the several that we need to reapprove, I would ask that we consider when the time comes, doing that as some type of consent agenda or taking them as a package. That's all. Thank you very much, sir.
We will take them as a package indeed. And I've also spoken with the city attorney just briefly about in the future when these come up, when we're appointing special police officers, if there's a way that we could, rather than tying it to a specific job title in a specific department, just making it a general appointment and in the course of their city duties. And he'll advise us if that's legal to do going forward, but that might be so that we don't encounter this situation again.
Okay, terrific. Thank you.
Sure. All right. Vice Chair Elliott, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have the same concern as Councilwoman Hill when it comes to these code enforcement pieces.
Right.
I think to spare Nicole, if we can figure out how we can procedurally do a consent agenda and just read all of this into the record, and for context for people who don't know what we're looking at. Because code enforcement has been moved under Public Works, all inspectors who previously had a special police commissions prior to that move has to be reapproved by city council to get those special police commissions. So it's pretty much a procedural thing that we have to do to mirror organizational shift. And so all these folks currently have it. We just have to make sure they have it again. So if we can spare Nicole and read it in the record and put it on consent calendar, I would appreciate it. We can talk about how we do that offline.
Sure. Okay. Right. And Councilman Clark, you're recognized.
Thank you,
Chairman Davis, I've got a question for Public Works as it relates to the archives upgrades. Is that to the downtown library on the 3rd floor? That upgrade in the amount of $369,000 authorized content. So there's a contingency of $37,000, but $369,000 with a total. So this is to create a special type of room? Like, it's the Roberts LLC company. Can someone add, what is the build out on that, Kevin, as far as the different types of, I guess my question really is why is that so expensive is this for the whole entire floor of the 3rd?
Thank you, Councilman. So it's actually a library issue. It's not Public Works. Will, can you speak to it, please?
Well, and I said Public Works because it's listed under Public Works.
That's a mistake. It's
Oh,
library.
okay, gotcha. I mean, I know it's a library, but Will, what can you give me a little bit more details about why that could be so pricey for? Is it for the whole entire floor or a build out of a room on the 3rd floor?
It's renovating the 3rd floor entirely.
Gotcha.
It's also renovating the archival space. So right now, what's happening is basically we're about 95% full of archives. This will create more room for potential archiving. I mean, still no history is being created today, and we want to continue to capture that and preserve it.
Gotcha. So the whole 3rd floor. Awesome.
Yeah, and we're moving it around so it's more effective and better meets the needs of people today.
It's Robert Roberts LLC. Are they a contractor or do they specialize in, like, is there some type of specialty group that does archival, like,
I believe they're
group
a
is this?
contractor, but I'm not aware.
Okay.
I don't know them very well.
Well, there's language about that this was the apparent low bidder and then someone didn't respond. So was this, so did this not go out for rebid because someone did not respond, or should it be out for rebid? Or did we just do this as a,
We followed up with the individual and they were non-responsive, the lowest bidder, so we went with the second
you went
bid.
with the second
Yes.
lowest bidder? Okay,
Yes.
gotcha. Awesome. All right. Thank you so much.
No problem, of course.
Any other questions on future considerations, council? All right. Seeing none, I will just note we do have a Parks and Outdoors, Public Works and Wastewater Committee meeting next week to discuss a stormwater ordinance. And that takes us through our agenda. We do need an attorney-client meeting and some time, I think, for other matters. So we will recess until 6 o'clock.
utility and public use easement in the 2400 block of Gun Barrel Road is detailed on the attached maps, subject to certain conditions.
We have a motion properly seconded on this ordinance on final reading. Are there any questions or comments before we vote? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And the ordinance is passed on final reading. Item 7B, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance so as to rezone property located at 127 Fern Avenue from RN1 7.5 residential neighborhood zone to RN2 residential neighborhood zone.
We have a motion properly seconded on this ordinance on final reading. Are there any questions or comments before we vote? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And the ordinance is passed on final reading. And item 7C, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance so as to rezone properties located at 2834, 2840, and 2852 Kirkman Road together with 7201 and 7215 Tyner Road from RN16 residential neighborhood zone to TRN3 traditional residential neighborhood zones.
This ordinance on final reading, are there any questions or comments before we vote? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And the ordinance is passed on final reading. And if you would please read item 8A, please.
An ordinance closing and abandoning a portion of an unopened alley in the 2800 block of 8th Street as detailed on the attached maps, subject to certain conditions.
We have a motion properly seconded on this ordinance on first reading. Are there any questions or comments before we vote? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And the ordinance is passed on first reading. Item 9A, please.
A resolution to repeal resolution number 32800 adopted on February 17, 2026, and adopting new rules of operation for the Chattanooga City Council.
Let's see. Councilman Clark, you're recognized.
Chairman David, who else is, who's second in queue?
It's Vice Chair Elliott.
I'd like to call for a roll call vote on the amendments.
Yeah.
I'll yield my time to Vice Chairman Elliott.
Okay, I was thinking the same thing. A roll call would be good since
Yes.
there's so many moving parts. So.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. All right, so there we go. We've got
Sorry about that.
the main item on the floor properly seconded. And Vice Chairman Elliott, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate you, council, for our fruitful conversation through all of this. I appreciate everybody's feedback. What you'll see here, you should have a copy of suggested amendments that we discussed at our agenda session. There are 6 of them, which we need to take each separately. Now, what you have here, I'm gonna read them down. The quorum piece. This is trying to close the gap for participation for everything. Now, there was some conversations about how does this impact quorum on council, and I understand there is some gray area with that that really probably needs to be flushed out even further, but that's the quorum piece we talked about. This oversight piece is something that I'm incredibly excited to support. It clarifies a lot of some misunderstandings as to what it means for legislative oversight. You have splitting economic and community development into 2 separate committees, economic development being one, community development and education being the second one. I'm incredibly excited to support that one. You'll see that language is in there and the descriptions for it to be plugged in. As far as meeting cadence, this is something that was suggested by Councilman Clark, shifting from bi-monthly to quarterly. That is something I am happy to support. What is this next one? Oh, number 6 is also under there too. So you'll see all of it. And I think this is a good discussion. I think ultimately this package is something that will serve this council well overall. And I am looking for it to be done. After all of it, whichever way we go. So, Mr. Chairman, that's it. I'll let you go from there.
Okay. So we do have a motion properly seconded on the floor to approve this resolution as it is presented. And I know there's been discussion of these amendments. Councilwoman Dotley, you're recognized.
Yes, just a point of clarity. So, Vice Chair Elliott mentioned the amendment, so I would like to move as amended, as he's mentioned it. Is that proper at this juncture
You're making a motion.
to move as amended?
Okay.
Right. But I also heard that not heard, but just Vice Chair stated that we would be taking those separately, and I know we're doing a roll call vote, so I'm just trying to get a point of clarity of.
So I think in talking with the city attorney just
Okay.
now, before we reconvened, because there's so many moving parts and with all of the language, I think it'd be cleaner if we take, and we've,
Okay.
there's 6 separate sections that
Oh,
we're
okay,
amending.
okay.
So we'll take, what we would need is a motion
Okay,
on each section,
Okay.
if that's clear.
And I would
Okay.
also recommend that you get your amendments as part of the record so that there is a clear copy of that here. And then any changes that you make, we can deal with that, but give that to your clerk so she has a copy.
okay. So reading the amendments, so reading the amendments separately, individually and separately.
Right.
Right, okay. Because we didn't do an alternate version. Instead, we're just gonna amend it at this juncture, is why we're doing this. Is that more or less correct? Okay,
Yeah.
I understand.
Since essentially we have a red line of a red line.
Right,
so,
we're doing that. Okay, so I
Right.
take out my motion to amend the whole thing and we'll move forward as you all have stated. So who's gonna read the amendments, Phil?
Well, I think we have a little bit more discussion. I
Oh,
see
okay, I'm sorry.
Councilman
Okay.
Henderson. So I'm
Okay,
gonna
okay, I'm sorry about that. Go ahead.
recognize him real quick.
Well, you said there was 6
Right.
sections to this, and I only see 4, but, so what am I?
Well, so there's the headings, but then as you look under those headings, there's actually separate, on a few of them, there's separate sections. If you see like under quorum, there's section 1C that's being amended and then section 3A4.
Okay, so we're not, so we won't take the amendments as the heading, we'll,
As the sections. Right. Is that clear?
clear as mud, thank you.
Okay.
No, okay.
Okay.
You want me to read it? Would that be easier?
Right. 6 separate motions to amend is what we would need.
Well, okay.
Make a motion to amend section 1C. This is the oversight section. And add following: legislative oversight may include receiving reports and departmental updates, requesting information relevant to legislative matters, reviewing performance measures and outcomes, conducting hearings, evaluating policy effectiveness, providing accountability, and making legislative recommendations. Legislative oversight shall not be construed to authorize the council or any standing committee to direct, supervise, manage, or otherwise perform the day-to-day administrative or operational functions of the mayor, city departments, officers, employees, or other executive functions, except as expressly authorized by the city charter, state law, or ordinance.
Second.
All right, we do have a motion properly seconded on the amendment to section 1C. Councilwoman Dotley, you're recognized.
Oh, I'm sorry, that was just
Oh,
earlier.
okay,
I
sorry.
apologize. Yeah, sorry.
All right, are there any other questions or comments on this amendment before we vote? And Madam Clerk, we'll do a roll call on these separate amendments.
Councilman Henderson?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hill?
Yes.
Councilman Harvey,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilwoman Burrs,
Yes.
Councilwoman Dudley,
Yes.
Councilwoman O,
Yes.
Vice Chair Elliott,
Yes.
Chairman Davis.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses.
All right. And so we're back on the resolution as first amended. Councilwoman Dudley.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I would like to add a second amendment to this one. Section 1C is amended by adding the following: after the existing provisions governing committee membership assignments, any duly elected council member may participate and vote in committee proceedings regardless of committee assignments. A council member participating in a committee meeting shall be counted toward quorum and shall have the right to participate in discussion and vote on matters before the committee, regardless of committee assignment.
Second.
All right, we do have a motion properly seconded on this amendment. Councilwoman Hill, you're recognized.
Thank you. I will not be voting in support of this quorum amendment or the second quorum amendment. I hear my colleagues' concern from District 8 about the thought that in some way the current language limits people from participating and voting. I do not see that to be structurally true within this language as currently written. So I will be voting against this one and the following. I will not speak if another is brought up about quorum. Thank you, that's all.
Okay, and Councilman Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have, as I brought up earlier, concerns about these two amendments being included. I don't believe they're fully baked yet, so I will be voting in opposition to both of these.
Okay. And Vice Chair Elliott.
Thank you. I agree there's some gray area with this. It's not perfect, this piece. I think there's needs to be room to be cleaned up. And so, but I do understand the intent behind it. So however it goes, it goes. That's how I look at it.
All right, any other questions or comments, council, before we vote? And again, Madam Clerk, we'll do a roll call vote.
Councilman Henderson,
No.
Councilwoman Hill, Councilman Harvey,
No.
Councilman Clark,
No.
Councilwoman Burrs,
Yes.
Councilwoman Dudley,
Yes.
Councilwoman O,
Yes.
Vice Chair Elliott,
Yes.
Chairman Davis.
No.
That's 5.
5 noes.
Yes.
Right, okay, so that amendment fails. And so we're back on the motion, main motion with, at this point, the first as amended, right? And Councilwoman Dudley, you're recognized.
Yes, I will be reading on the quorum, section 3, understanding everybody's position, but I still want to read that into the record and make sure those votes are on the record. Section 3A4 is amended and replaced with the following language: all standing committee meetings are open to full participation by any duly elected member of the council. Any council member attending a committee meeting shall be counted toward quorum and shall have the right to participate in discussion and vote on matters before the committee, regardless of committee assignment. Is that that was the second one, right? Vice Chair. Okay, yes, so that one. So I move to approve, motion on that amendment.
And for your record, that is actually section 3 of the rules for council meetings, and that would be A4.
A4, okay,
Yes,
section A4, yes, thank you,
Okay.
thank you for
Yes, ma'am.
And so we have a motion.
Mhm.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. And we have a motion properly seconded. Are there any further questions or comments before we vote on this amendment? All right, seeing none, Madam Clerk, please take a roll call vote.
Councilwoman O,
Yes.
Councilwoman Dudley,
Yes.
Councilwoman Burrs,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Who?
Clerk.
Clark,
I'm sorry. The cough, and I didn't know what to say. No.
Councilman Harvey?
No.
Councilwoman Hill? Councilman Henderson? Vice Chair Elliott?
Yes.
Chairman Davis?
No.
That's 5 noes.
All right, and that amendment also fails. And so we are back on the main motion as amended. Councilman Harvey, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Propose amendment to the meeting cadence. I did like what Councilman Clark recommended is instead of the 6 meetings, moving it to quarterly. And so I make a motion to amend with the following language. Independent of any active referral, each standing committee shall meet no less than once per quarter to conduct committee business, receive departmental updates, provide oversight, and remain engaged with matters within its jurisdiction.
All right, we do have a motion properly seconded on this amendment. Are there any questions or comments, council, before we vote?
Your lawyer will remind you that that is an amendment to section 3A4.
Right. All right, well, seeing no questions or comments, Madam Clerk, if you would please take a roll call vote.
Councilwoman Knoll?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dolly? Councilwoman Burrs?
Yes.
Councilman Clark?
Yes.
Councilman Harvey?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hill?
Yes.
Councilman Henderson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Elliott?
Yes.
Chairman Davis?
Yes.
It's 9 yes.
And that motion is, or the amendment is adopted. And we are back on the motion as amended again. Councilwoman Dottley, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Chair. We almost finished, which is great. I'm gonna move up to up to the committee structures. And state that this is section 1C. Is that right, Mr. Attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. For section 1C, replacing the former language with 3 Economic Development Committee. Well, it's not, the number's not gonna be 3. Well, the numbers don't matter.
But it is subsection 3.
It is subsection 3, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Subsection 3, Economic Development Committee shall consider economic development within the city and its relationship to real property, brownfields, workforce development pilots, tax incentives, arts and cultural, special events, and private public financing tools. 4, Community Development and Education Committee shall consider matters within the Community Development Department, including community centers, community engagement, community health, and the Family Justice Center. The committee shall also oversee the Department of Early Learning, including Head Start, Early Learning, Partnerships, Community Forward, and related divisions. That's in the form of a motion.
Second.
All right, we do have a motion properly seconded on this proposed amendment. Are there any questions or comments, council, before we vote? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, if you would please take a roll call vote.
Councilman Henderson? Councilwoman Hill?
Yes.
Councilman Harvey?
Yes.
Councilman Clark?
No.
Councilwoman Burrs?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dolly?
Yes.
Councilwoman Knoll?
Yes.
Vice Chair Elliott?
Yes.
Chairman Davis?
Yes.
7 yes.
All right, and that amendment is adopted. We are back on the main motion with all of its amendments. And Vice Chair Elliott, you are recognized.
This last one's a little tricky because the print is a little bit different. The bottom section, section VA, as amended to the following. This is a follow-up from the cadence meeting. It's technically supposed to be section 4A. Is that correct, Phil?
Yes, sir. It's under accounting and accountability and reporting.
Yes. I would like a motion to move to approve that as amended with this.
Did you want to read the language as we have been?
Sure. This is the original language. If any committee held fewer than 6 meetings in a calendar year, fewer than once every 2 months, or experience a quorum failure rate exceeding 20%, the report shall flag this, and city council chair shall address this at the next strategic planning session.
it replaces it with the following. If any committee held fewer than 4 meetings in a calendar year, fewer than once per quarter, or experience a quorum failure exceeding 20%, the report shall flag this, and the council chair should address this cause at the next strategic planning session.
All right, and you've made a motion and we have a second? All right, we do have a motion properly seconded on this final amendment. Are there any questions or comments before we vote? All right, seeing none, Madam Clerk, if you would please take a roll call vote.
Councilwoman Knoll? Yes. Councilwoman Dottley? Yes. Councilwoman Burrs?
Yes.
Councilman Clark?
Yes.
Councilman Harvey?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hill?
Yes.
Councilman Henderson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Elliott?
Yes.
Chairman Davis?
Yes.
9 yeses.
All right, and that amendment is adopted. Vice Chair Elliott, you are recognized.
I move to approve as amended.
All right, we have a motion finally to approve as amended. And I'll just say again, council, before we vote, I think this has been time well spent. I think this is the way we ought to do our work, carefully and deliberately and respectfully. So we will, well, might as well do another roll call vote, Madam
You better
Clerk.
have a vote.
Oh, we have to
Roll call vote, please.
Councilwoman Knoll?
No, and because I tell you why. Anytime you will deny a person an opportunity to vote anytime, anywhere, I cannot support it totally.
Councilwoman Dottley? Councilwoman Burrs?
Yes.
Councilman Clark?
Yes.
Councilman Harvey?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hill?
Yes.
Councilman Henderson? Vice Chair Elliott?
Yes.
Chairman Davis?
Yes.
So that's 8 yes.
All right, 8 yeses and 1 no, and the motion is, the resolution is adopted. Item 9B, please, Madam Clerk.
A resolution authorizing Department of Technology Services, GIS Division, to partner with the Hamilton County GIS Department in the procurement of a LEADER mapping service, airborne laser mapping used to capture precise 3D surface elevations for the Hamilton County, City of Chattanooga geographical area, using Wolpert Inc. to be used to create a digital elevation model and 2-foot contour across the entire city for engineering and mapping purposes, with the City of Chattanooga being responsible for $40,000 of the $176,108.49 overall expense.
We have a motion properly seconded on this resolution. Are there any questions or comments before we vote? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And the resolution is adopted. Item 9C, please.
A resolution to reappoint Matthew Shea Cofer to the Air Pollution Control Board for a term beginning on August 18, 2026 and ending on August 17, 2030 as a joint appointment with Hamilton County government.
Move to approve.
We have a motion properly seconded on this item. Council, are there any questions or comments before we vote? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And the resolution is adopted. And finally, 9D, please.
A resolution authorizing the appointment of Kelly Janis as a special police officer unarmed for the City of Chattanooga Department of Public Works, expressly limited to the performance of the duties in her position as Assistant Director of Development Services in the Land Development Office.
Move to approve.
We have a motion properly seconded on this resolution. Council, are there any questions or comments before we vote? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And the resolution is adopted. And we're happy now to welcome Weston to the podium to present our purchases for this evening.
Good evening, Council. We have 5 purchases recommended for approval this evening. The first is with Public Works. This is a one-time purchase of Caterpillar trash compactor to be used at the landfill. The purchase from Stowers Machinery will be in the amount of $1,363,680.96, utilizing the Sourcewell contract. Item number 2 is with wastewater. They requested an increase of $60,000 to agreement PA 100568 with Nippon Sanso Matheson to cover current and future invoices through September 20, 2026. The new annual spend limit will be $445,000. Item number 3 is also with wastewater. This is a new agreement for machining, fabricating, and related equipment repair services for wastewater. This will be a 4-year agreement with an annual amount limit of $150,000. The award will go to Valley Mechanical as the best bid. Item number 4 is with DTS. This is a new agreement for web hosting services and platform support subscription for technology services. This will be a 3-year agreement with an annual amount limit of $50,054.64. This single source agreement will be awarded to Pantheon Systems. And finally, item number 5 is Consolidated Pipe and Supplies requesting a 5% increase to PA 100445 due to the increase in market prices. The new annual limit will be $52,500.
Have a motion properly seconded to approve these purchases, council. Are there any questions or comments before we vote? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And the purchases are approved.
Great. We have one sole source purchase to report this evening. Is for software licenses and cloud support for wastewater inspections in the amount of $25,350.
Okay. We will go around the dais now for committee reports. We'll start with Chairwoman Knoll. Councilwoman Knoll.
No report.
Okay. Councilwoman Dodley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have no report, but I did, with your permission, wanted to make an announcement. I'm so excited about it. So this is my second term, and in our first term, ARP dollars were allocated to build out a cafe in Alton Park. It's finally done. It's called Coco Cafe. So we will have our grand opening Monday, August 24th at 11 a.m. at 618 West 38th Street. And it's a big deal for our community, but I want to specifically give a shout out to Councilman Henderson, Councilwoman Hill, Councilwoman Knoll, former Councilman Ledford, now Commissioner Smith, and Councilman Hester. They were the original team that was here that voted on that, and it's taken years. You hear me? Before I got on council, I was working on this. Years to get it done. So it is, and former Councilwoman Burrs. It's taken a long time, and part of it is actually some of the strategies she shared with me. So, so I am excited. I wasn't at strategic planning today because we finally got our health permit. Praise the Lord. So now we are officially able to open Monday. And so I invite you all out to that event. And also Mayor Kelly and his administration. And you'll hear a lot of that Monday. But I wanted to say thank you to council, because a lot of y'all have heard me ramble on about that since some of y'all just got here, and I know y'all have heard me ramble on about it. And for really Councilwoman Hill, who has heard me rant often, and Chair Davis. But I just want to invite y'all. If you can't tell, I'm very excited, and if you can make it. We'll be open Monday starting at 11 a.m. and then the rest of the time is 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. So thank you, council. Thank you to the city, to the mayor's office for supporting this endeavor. We've created jobs in the community. Half of the employees actually live in the neighborhood. So it's so much more. And with just a small investment from the city, we've been able to really move the community forward. So again, thank you to Mayor Kelly, Councilman Henderson, Councilwoman Hill, Councilwoman Knoll, Councilman Ledford, Hester, and Commissioner Smith, because they were here from the beginning. And I thank them, and I thank you, council, for all you all hear my rantings about it all year. So that is it. That's all of my report. And that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Burrs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No committee report, but I do want to announce again, I'm having a District 6 Summit on Thursday from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. It'll be at the Family Justice Center, and breakfast will be served. So I invite all of you all to attend, the community as well. There's flyers outside if you want to grab one. And we'll be talking about connectivity, economic development, and entrepreneurship in District 6, and how that how that connects to our economic and workforce development, to CARTA, to the Chattanooga Airport, of course, the Chattanooga Library, and some of our entrepreneurship programs that are located in District 6. So I welcome anybody to attend and learn more about what we're doing. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilman Henderson.
No report.
Councilwoman Hill.
No report.
Councilman Harvey.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, we will have a Public Works Committee meeting next week to discuss a stormwater ordinance. I'm serious. That's all.
Councilman Clark.
Thank you, Chairman Davis. No report, but I do want to give a special shout out to everyone who attended the Brainerd Park Community Meeting yesterday in the middle of a very serious weather event. Despite that, we had 40, I don't know where Kim Strong is, but she was definitely one of our key coordinators of that event. We have 47 attendees meet at the Brainerd Golf Course to hear about updates from various city departments, including from Mandy Green, who was present, who's our Chief Operating Officer, Chief Knowles, we had the Assistant Chief, Daniel Jones, people from Weigh-In, where's Weigh-In? From our Deputy Director of Public Works was there, and I was joined by my colleagues, Vice Chairman Elliott, Councilman Henderson, and Councilwoman Hill. Thank you all for coming to support those community events. We enjoy getting out, supporting each other, and I appreciate that, and the community appreciate that, and that's what we call bringing council to the community. So thank you again to the mayor's office for bringing your team. People love those updates, and it's just a way for us to connect our communities to council. So anyway, thank y'all for yesterday.
And Vice Chair Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council, I would first like to start by thanking all of you as my colleagues. This piece of legislation was hard, much harder than I ever expected. But, you know, I think today we showed we can do hard things that can be transformative for us and continue to do hard things for our city. So I thank you all for leaning into the conversation and the dialogue. I hope this is a step in a stronger direction for the 9 of us to move forward on better working relationships so we can, at minimum, keep the main thing, and that's showing up for Chattanooga. And so thank y'all for engaging in that. I'll end with announcing that our annual District 9 Town Hall will be on September 14th at 6 o'clock at Second Missionary Baptist Church. Graphics are to be released, but I just want to go ahead and announce that now for everybody who wants to attend, whether you're in District 9 or not. It's an opportunity to talk about where we are with our previous projects, talk about some of the projects we secured in this previous budget, happenings around the district, and also an opportunity to capture any concerns so we can make sure the city is showing up the best we can for our district. So that's all, Mr. Chair.
Okay. And that takes us to the portion of our meeting where we're happy to recognize members of the public who are here to address council. And so if you're here for that purpose, please come to the podium down front here and listen while our attorney reads the rules.
Yes, sir. And at the end of each council business meeting, the chair will recognize members of the public who wish to address the council, and here's your rules. Each speaker wishing to address the council can only be recognized at the microphone up front that's provided for that purpose. Can't have more than 3 minutes to speak, and you can address the council only upon matters within their legislative and quasi-judicial authority and not on matters which are not under their authority or regulated by other governmental bodies or agencies. Do not engage in any vulgar or obscene language, nor use the floor to personally attack or personally denigrate others, and address the council members as a whole and not make comments directed towards individual council members. And lastly, do not engage in disorderly conduct or disrupting a public meeting, which is prohibited by Tennessee law. And someone commits that offense if the person substantially obstructs or interferes with the meeting by physical action or verbal utterance with the intent to prevent or disrupt a lawful meeting or gathering. Having stated those rules, sir, please go ahead and give us your name and your district.
Jacob, District 9. Before I begin, I'd like to make myself clear. I'm not here to advocate against a shelter being built. I'm here to advocate for what I see as common sense barriers to entry on any publicly funded shelter, primarily dry facilities and criminal background checks for sex offenses and violent crimes. An oft-cited statistic is Chattanooga lags behind all the other major Tennessee metros in the proportion of sheltered homeless people. This is true, and Mr. King is pushing a low-barrier shelter as the only solution. However, I believe we're missing some important context. Knoxville does not have a low-barrier shelter. Their shelters require sobriety. Nashville does not have a low-barrier shelter. The rescue mission requires church program attendance and prohibits intoxicant use. Memphis actually does have a low-barrier shelter with 22 beds for women and 5 beds for men. So I ask, how have these other cities managed to get their homeless population sheltered despite no significant low-barrier shelters? If these other cities did it without a low-barrier shelter, and we want results like these cities, why is a shelter that permits drug and alcohol abuse the solution? I thought, surely other cities have run something of similar scale before, so I began researching. I could not find a single shelter that meets the definition of a 24/7 low barrier with 500 beds anywhere in the country. Even somewhere as progressive as Skid Row, where there is shelters with 600 and more beds, they require an ID to ensure that residents pass a Megan's Law background clearance. Let me be clear. What Barron King and Chat Foundation are proposing is unprecedented for a city of our size on a national level. The largest comparable 24/7 low barrier example I could find is the Dallas Bridge Center with roughly 300 beds and $8 million to build it, and operating with an annual budget of over $6 million. Yet it's still so hated by its host neighborhood that the city of Dallas is committed to moving it or breaking it up. If 300 low barrier beds in one place couldn't work in Dallas for $6 million, how are 500 low barrier beds going to work in Chattanooga for $750,000? None of this adds up. The local media is completely asleep at the wheel. And Barron King has made $250,000 since the last time he could be bothered to go to a community meeting in the MLK community that he says he serves. A year and a half, 18 months, $250,000, 36 podcast episodes created, 1 community meeting. This community needs a shelter, not a trap house, not a drunk house. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is John Schmeckley. I've lived in Chattanooga for 5 years. I don't know what district. I'm homeless right now. I want to bring to your attention an issue. Something's broken in the police department. Just over a year ago, I was hit by a car. My hip was shattered. And the car was a cream-colored Mercury Comet. And the police report lied about it. It said it was a black Honda SUV. And the police report defamed me in a way that made it appear that it was my fault for getting hit. The reason why this is still relevant for me is the county medical officer, Dr. Stephen Miller, he gave me a referral to Erlanger to have a follow-up operation to fix the botched operation so I can go back to work. But Erlanger is refusing to honor the referral. So if I was able to get the insurance of the driver that hit me to pay for me to go to a different hospital, then I could get my life back. And I went to internal affairs of the police department. Just like there are so many mistakes, and I wrote all about it, and it was a black hole. I never heard back from them. And so I bring this to your attention. Something isn't working right in the way they handle this type of issue from the public. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is Toby in here?
Yes, my name is Thomas Bass, District 6. I want to bring a matter to your attention. On Sunday of this past week, I went to the airport landfill where you dump your rubbish. When I got there, the guy checked me in, and then they walked around the back of my truck and said my truck was overloaded. And I've been going to that landfill because I live in that area for 42 years next month. I have 42 years living in the Edgemont Forest. Anyway, they went to the back of my truck and said, your truck is overloaded. I had a standard-sized truck. To be honest about it, my truck does have a truck rack on it. You know, some of y'all probably seen with the ladders, they put ladders on them, but it was given to me and I just took it. I'm not in construction business. I'm retired. Somebody got a long board, I'll let them put it up on their 12-foot, 16-foot board because they don't fit in a regular truck. But anyway, the attendant, the senior attendant, he came down. He said, well, I recognize you. He said, we don't change the rules. You can't bring this in here. I said, well, what do I need to do? Go back home and take the stuff that's on the top and level it out a little bit? How much? And the guy who took my license, they said he was new. He said, oh no, you can't come back. Not with this load. I recognize this load. You can't come back with this load. I said, that doesn't make any sense to me. Go home, level it out, and come back. Oh no, you're not gonna do that. I said, well, I need to talk to your supervisor. He said, he's in that truck, but he's not gonna talk to you. So what I did, I left, went back to a company called CWS, which is the same company that pulls y'all rubbish from that site. I went over there, they let me in, I dumped my load, and while I was dumping my load, a young man came up and I told him what had happened to me. And he said, well, don't feel bad, I'm banned. I said, what? He said, yeah, they told me I had 12 times to come out. And they said, I've been over here more than 12 times. I said, how did they know that? He said, I don't know, they just said it, but I'm banned. And I got in an argument and I ended up calling the police. I said, you did what? I called the police on them. The police actually came to that site. Anyway, I went ahead and unloaded my truck. I'm just simply saying, y'all need to consider doing this. Do away with it. Save everybody the aggravation. Do away with that dump site. All of them. Thank you.
Councilwoman Burrs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Bass, can I get your contact information after the meeting? Thank you.
My name is Brad Harwell. I'm from District 1 and a business owner here in the Chattanooga area. I was attending a chamber event last week and we were discussing the Chattanooga 2.0 initiative and how there are several school districts where it's much more likely for someone to end up in prison than to end up going to college. Knowing what I know from environmental testing and what I know about the heat maps for lead-based paint and the effects of lead-based paint and mold on an emotional dysregulation and emotional control, as well as memory issues, memory recall. Some concerns started to come to my mind immediately. And so my question to y'all is this: how often are we independently testing at these school districts for lead-based paint, for mold, for asbestos, for VOCs? Because that all disrupts the learning process. The best predictor of someone going to prison for a violent offense, by far, is the amount of lead in their blood. The second variable, if you triple it, doesn't account for half of the variance. And so that would be a good place to start. I don't know if these children are going to prison for violent offenses, but if they are, that would be a great place to start. And then mold would also be something that needs to be tested regularly, at least quarterly. And so that's my concern. I'm trying to figure out how to become a better part of this community, and that seems like a great place to start. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to address council this evening?
Move to adjourn.
All in favor? We are adjourned.